Good afternoon. I'm your host, Jimmy Kim, and you're watching the greatest show on the planet, The Jimmy Kim Show. To the audience out there, thank you so much for tuning in, and Happy New Year. Today, I have the wonderful pleasure of interviewing Houston City Council Member at-large, Position 3, Michael Kubosh. Now, the at-large positions actually represent the city as a whole, which is a tremendous amount of constituents because, as you may or may not know, Houston is one of the largest cities in the country. Actually, the fourth largest the last time I checked. So, Michael, take the mic. Go ahead.
It's good to be here with you, Jimmy, at the greatest radio show in Houston.
Oh, thank you so much.
It's good to be here, and I enjoy being here with your listeners. And we have a lot of good things to talk about today. I believe that if you'll stay and you'll listen, you'll learn something about city government and some of the things that are going on that pertain to your day-to-day life.
Fantastic. All right, Michael. So the audience can get to know you a bit better. I mean, obviously they know you're an elected official, but tell us some information about your background.
Well, I'm married. I have 5 children. I have 20 grandchildren, 3 great-grandchildren. Yes, I'm a great-grandpa, and actually I'm way too young to be a great-grandpa, Jimmy.
That's what I was going to say, yeah. My goodness.
But I am, and I've been in the bail business for years, which is a surety business, and then I became a city council member. I'm now just a city council member. I'm not in any other business other than the business of the city, and so it's always been my intent over the years to when I was a younger man. I ran children's homes. I had 2 foster group homes. I had adopted a child. I had foster group home children in my own home. I had 6. And I care about children. I care about people. It's about people. And since I've been in government the last 8 years, I see things, Jimmy, that I don't like. But the thing that I do like is serving the people. I do like that.
You know, I really like hearing that, Michael, because that's actually why elected officials are there, to serve the people. But I feel like at times that gets misinterpreted.
Well, I'll let the listeners know that since I've been in office, I have not been enriched by being a city council member. I have not done anything that has enriched me financially. In fact, I take umbrage to anybody that would get in city government or any government position to enrich themselves. I believe that is wrong. They're there to serve the people. We've taken an oath of office to protect the people. And sometimes we have to protect the people from politicians. And I think that we have to do what's right and do it every day. We can't pick and choose what we want to do. We have to do what's right.
You know, I really like to hear that myself, and I know the audience likes to hear that as well, because sometimes I feel the energy around me of people that are getting frustrated with what's going on in government. And that's at all levels, Michael. So well, I'm happy you're promoting that.
And listen, you know, we just came through a big part of this pandemic. Whether or not we're still in it or not, that's yet to be determined. But whenever they shut the government down and they shut down small businesses, Jimmy, I couldn't even get a haircut. I couldn't, and I know this may sound strange to you men, but I mean, I get pedicures and manicures. Why? Because I need it. You know, I can't get down there and take care of that stuff anymore. So I go, and you can't even find a nail salon anymore. Or you can't find a business that was open, a small business. You everything was locked down. In fact, I began to wonder where people were getting haircuts, unless they were cutting it themselves or their nails done or just simple things, you know, and always having to be concerned about wearing a mask. And I want to be safe. But listen, that mask that we wear is to protect you from blood-borne pathogens. You know, Jimmy, I have a mask right here in my pocket. And let me tell you what, viruses can go right through these masks. They don't stop. They don't stop the viruses. They only stop blood-borne pathogens. So we need to be aware of what we're really trying to put people through when we lock them down. That's why the murder rate is up and the suicide rate and the domestic violence rate is up. So many things. We've locked down the churches. We've shut down places of worship. And And that's where a man needs to go and a woman needs to go to find peace and with themselves and with their people and with their God. And we shut those places of worship down. And as a result of it, look what's happened. The crime is on the rise, and we've got to do better than what we've done. We even shut the rodeo down. Unbelievable. And those people that are involved in that rodeo, the children that would get a scholarship, that all got shut down, Jimmy.
Yeah, I didn't like that because I didn't get to wear my cowboy hat and my cowboy boots this year.
Well, and I understand that, but we've got to do better. And government is for the protecting of its people, and we have to protect them from government.
Well, absolutely. And I like the fact that you brought up the masks because here they're not mandatory. We don't impose that on people. And it sounds what I interpreted your message is you respect people's decision to do so if they want to, but it's not something you're imposing on individuals. Did I get that correctly?
Yes. If you would have asked me to wear a mask today, I would have wore it.
Sure. Okay.
There's a scripture in the New Testament that says, if eating meat offends my brother, I'll not eat it. Now, personally, I like all kinds of meat, but if you don't want me to eat it in your presence, I wouldn't eat it. And I understand what that was really trying to say, but we need to respect people's privacy. We need to respect their rights, and I just believe that we have overreacted to this virus. My grandson he's in his 20s, and he had an appendicitis attack, and he had surgery, and the doctor said, "Oh, that was COVID." And really, well, he didn't have insurance, but because it was COVID related, the federal government paid for his surgery.
Interesting. Yeah, I've been trying to promote this like everywhere I go. I mean, we just need to get back to the basics in some instances and boost our immune systems rather than live in fear and paranoia about this COVID virus. What do you think about that, Mike?
Well, when you look at the history of plagues and diseases, and you measure it against the COVID outbreak, you'll find that the numbers are not that different, and there's just not a whole lot that we can do. We can try to protect ourselves from it by not being around others, but the truth of the matter is, it looks like that either. If you don't wear a mask, you're going to get it. If you do wear a mask, you're going to get it. If you get vaccinated, you're going to get it. If you don't get vaccinated, you're going to get it. It's like if you don't go out, you're going to get it. Look, I have a 3-month-old grandson, and he got COVID, and he hadn't been anywhere, and his mama hadn't left the house. I don't know where they got it.
But he got better?
Yeah, he's better now.
Well, thank goodness.
So maybe my son gave it to him. I don't know, but the truth of the matter is, there's no possible way to. This virus is so small to keep it out of the air, they say it'll hover in the air and you can walk through and breathe it. We have to build up our what they call herd immunity.
Yes.
When I've heard about that, it made perfect sense to me. We're gonna have to live through this thing.
Yes, that makes sense. Yeah, I'm on the same page as you, Michael. Okay, let's shift gears a little bit. So can you tell us more about your at-large position 3? Because like I said, I feel like a lot of Houstonians are maybe not aware of what that position entails. For example, that you're representing the whole city of Houston.
Well,
so for the audience that doesn't really understand what that is.
Well, let me give you a real clear snapshot of this, and that is that there are 16 council members that serve the city of Houston, 16 of us. 5 of us are at large. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I'm number 3. It doesn't matter if you're 1 or 5 or 3. If you're at large, that means you cover all 11 districts. There's 11 district council members, A through K. The district council members have just a specific district that votes for them, and they represent their district. Now, obviously, if they vote, it affects the entire city. So you can say they also represent the entire city.
Technically.
Mm-hmm. So then you have 2 other people. You have the mayor, who's elected at large, just like I am, and then you have the city controller, who really should be the watchdog of the city. And he's also elected overall the city. And what concerns me is that we don't have the city controller a seat at the table. And when we do business every week, he has to sign off on all of these contracts, and he's not ever at the table. We only get to see him once a month, and we'll see him tomorrow at City Hall. And he'll make a presentation to us about the finances of the city. But he needs to be there at council every week with us so we can ask him questions. But he doesn't do it. And I really believe the city controller should be at every council meeting every week, just like the rest of us. He's paid full time. The mayor's paid full time. The 16 council members are paid part time. That means I could have another job if I wanted it, but it's really a full-time job if you ask me.
Agreed. Yeah. So that makes complete sense from a common sense perspective, Michael, what you said about the comptroller. I wasn't even aware of that. But that's not even a partisan issue. It's not a liberal or conservative thing. It makes sense for that person to be there, considering the amount of oversight that they have within the process.
And it concerns me too that since we're talking about this, things that need to change in our city. The city needs to have an independently elected city attorney. Right now, the city attorney is chosen by the mayor, ratified by council, and after that, he'll tell you, or the mayor will tell you, he represents my interest. In other words, what I say. He's not answerable to the city council really as an individual, but he is as a whole perhaps. But he's always looking out for the best interests of what the mayor's doing. And we don't need that. We need somebody that's independently looking out for what's the best for the voters. In the county, we have a county attorney. The county attorney is elected by the voters. And his responsibility or hers is to represent the people of Harris County. And this is in every county in Texas. The county attorney is elected. But in city business, the city has an appointed attorney by the mayor and ratified by council. But it really needs to be somebody independently elected who can do their own thing, investigating things, and doesn't have to answer to the mayor.
That's very interesting insight. Thank you for sharing that with us, because I feel like that kind of information is something that may not be as public, or people that are aware about those kinds of issues unless you're actually in there like yourself. I wasn't even aware of that.
Well, Jimmy, just like here recently, we had an incident at the airport where and this has been on television. It's been where the airport director his girlfriend got involved with somebody, and there's some sexual harassment charge now against her, and it goes to what's called the OIG, which is Office of Inspector General. And who is that? Well, that's somebody in the city attorney's office, appointed by the mayor, controlled by the mayor. And if you don't do what the mayor says, he'll fire you. So, I mean, whatever decision that comes out of that OIG, Office of Inspector General, is really what the mayor wants. And I don't care who the mayor is. It shouldn't be that way. That's why we need an independent elected city attorney and an independent Office of Inspector General that doesn't have to answer to the mayor.
Once again, that makes complete sense. Once again, not a liberal or conservative issue here. Just
right.
Something that's reasonable, that would actually help the whole city operationally speaking, for transparency.
I think the key is transparency. Otherwise, you'll have what had recently happened when Tom McClassen, who is our director, was our director over housing. He looks like he just had enough, and one day he came to council, and he basically blew the lid off everything. He said that the mayor is doing things to benefit a certain builder or investor, and it just blew things up. Now, he's a whistleblower. And you know what you do to whistleblowers? Well, the mayor fires them. And yet that shouldn't be. They should be protected by law. If they come forward and say something, the mayor was running around for a while saying, if you see something, say something. Well, Tom McClassen saw something, he said something, and he got fired. So what does that really say to people who, when they see something, should they say something if they're going to lose their job? Well, I disagree with what the mayor did on that, and I still think that Tom McClassen was right in coming forward, and he said that what's happening is that there's a culture of corruption in the city government.
That's very dangerous. But thank you for exposing that as well, because like I said, I wasn't aware of some of these things that were going on. And I like that, Michael, that you are vocal about it, because I feel like a lot of people in the system do not do the same. Because as you said, if you whistleblow, you lose your job. It's very risky.
Well, Jimmy, when I go home at night, I have to go to sleep, and I have to sleep by myself. You know, my wife's there, but I have to sleep with my own mind and my own thoughts. And if I don't do what's right, it troubles me. And I in my mind, if I don't speak up, there's been times when I've said I should have said this or I should have said that. I didn't speak up quick enough. And so we cannot allow wrong to hide itself in government. We have to expose it. And the only thing that will shine the light on this is the brightness of transparency.
Yes. And then sharing that information,
speaking
out.
And I told you when I first ran for office, I said, I'm an outsider. Put me on the inside, and I'll tell you what's really going on at City Hall. Because, I'm not a part of this. I'm not a part of the political elite. I'm not a part of the establishment. I'm an outsider. And so, at my first really kind of a debate thing, I get up, Jimmy, and I said, I'm going to shine the light on these cockroaches.
Love it.
And man, did the place just, it kind of froze a lot of folks. And my political guy come to me and says, hey, don't say that again.
Maybe that's why you won the election, Michael.
Maybe it is. But I guess I got carried away in my mind because I do want to shine the light on what's wrong. Right. And when you turn the light on, the cockroaches do run.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Oh, they always run.
And some of them, they deserve that treatment. Now, we're not saying they're all cockroaches. They're not all bad. There's certainly some good people that are in publicly elected positions. But as I said, the people that act like that, they deserve to be spotlighted in that manner.
Jimmy, I think it's bad to have bad politicians, but it's also bad to have politicians who won't stand up for what's right when it's right before them, even though they may say they haven't done anything wrong.
Right.
But when they're in a position to do something and to take an affirmative action, I think it's wrong when you don't.
Yes.
I think I think what we used to call it in church was we'd say that's a sin of omission. We didn't do what we were supposed to do, and so I have a duty to do certain things, Jimmy. And
yes.
One of the things that I'm going to do is I have a voice, I have a vote, and I have a seat at the table. Why? Because you, the voters, gave it to me. And I take that with deep respect, and I'm not going to sit by silently worried about what somebody's going to think about me if I speak up. I'm going to speak up. I'm going to ask the hard questions. I'm not going to try to attack anybody, but I'm going to ask the hard questions.
Yes. So my question is, so you're Christian, Michael?
Yes, I am Christian by faith, and I have been since I've been about, even though I was born in a Christian family, I made that decision myself when I was about 15 years old.
Wow, yeah. Once again, I didn't know that, but I think that's the best way to do it, rather than it being imposed on anybody.
Yeah, I made that decision on my own.
Okay, yeah, glad to hear that. Yeah, it's funny because out in society they say never talk about religion and politics. Well, here we like to change it up here, because if we never do, then how's anything going to get done?
And yet, even though I'm Christian, I respect people of all religions. I have friends that are Hindus, some that are Muslims, some that are Christians, some are Jews. I have some that don't believe in anything. Right. At least they say they don't, and I still like them.
Oh, you respect their
I respect
their
them,
values, right?
And it's about, if you really believe, if you're really a Christian, you're going to be tolerant of everybody. And that's how I feel. I believe Jesus was tolerant. When he fed the 5,000 on the Mount of Beatitudes, I've been to that mount multiple times. And when he fed them, I don't think he was going around saying, okay, we're only going to feed a certain group. I think he fed everybody. Yeah. Because that's the way and in government, you protect everybody. You do what's right
for everybody. Right. Yeah, I like that because I feel like society is going down a path right now where there's a lot of divisiveness, infighting, just because of certain differences, including what you just mentioned, even religious differences or political. And my thing is like, let's agree to disagree.
Well, Jimmy, my brother Randy and I, my wife, we went to a church called Rose of Sharon over off of Valentine Street in the 4th Ward. And the pastor there is named Elmo Johnson. And they have a big sign in their church that says, "We love people."
I like that.
And so that's how they started the service. We love people. And that's how they ended the service. Right. We love people. And I think that really resonated with my wife, my brother, and I. We thought, wow, that's a nice thing to say. Is we really love people. And the way people really care for people is if they do something.
Yes, their character.
They
their
do
actions.
Something. That's right.
Yeah, I like that because, people they prejudge based on political affiliation, religious affiliation, or even by the color of their skin sometimes.
Oh, absolutely.
We need to get past that.
Oh, absolutely.
In the year 2022, we really should be farther than that. Because as I said, I think it was MLK that said that. Let's look at and judge people by their character, not by the color of their skin.
Yes. Martin Luther King was alive during my young days when I was a young man. Right. And I remember the Bloody Sunday in the march to Selma to Montgomery. I remember the Bloody Sunday crossing the Edmund Pettus Bridge and going into Selma wanting to register to vote. And that's what that was about, They wanted to register to vote. And so they were beaten mercifully. I think 7 or 8 died. And then Martin Luther King called. He wasn't there on Bloody Sunday. He called the nation. I saw him on television saying, "We need to come and support. Please come, please come, please come." And a lot of people came. And it wasn't just blacks. It was a lot of whites, a lot of white ministers. And if you know the history of that, you know that 2 white clergymen from Boston, the next day after they were to walk across the bridge, were murdered by some Klansmen. And that murder of those 2 whites clergymen sent a message to President Johnson, and he signed that voter rights bill back in 1965. And so I think that we have to treat people fairly. To judge somebody by the color of their skin or their ethnicity or any of that is wrong. We have to be fair. We have to treat people fairly.
Yes, and that's a good motivation to get engaged in the political process and especially go vote. Because the sacrifices these people made just a few generations ago, it's unfathomable. And considering and considering the voter participation right now, the numbers, when I look at it, I don't like it. Yeah.
Well, it's there for a while. I got pretty upset about the low numbers.
Right.
I couldn't understand it, Jimmy, and I think that even people that I know very well in my own family, some of them don't want to vote. And I said, "You're not going to go vote for me?" "Well, you're either going to win or lose. One vote won't make a difference." And that's that type of an attitude. It just didn't make sense to me. But I begin to wonder, why is there such voter apathy? Do you have any idea who the largest single voting bloc is in Houston?
No.
Well, I do. It's black females 65 and older. And I was stunned to learn that. And then the first time I won an election, the median age, not average, the median age of the voters who voted in that election, Jimmy, were 69 years old. Young people don't vote. So when I went out and spoke at the colleges and said, and they said they really liked me coming, I said, and I appreciate y'all saying all this to me, but the truth of the matter is the reason why you don't have more politicians coming out here to talk to you is because you people don't vote. You don't vote. The second time I ran for office, the median age of the people who voted was 62 years old. So maybe I had a little impulse, a little influence.
Maybe so.
but it's the median age. I mean, think about it. Old people vote. If you walk into a senior citizen meeting, I want to tell you those people vote. And if you go to some of these young people meetings, they don't vote. They don't know the issues. They don't. Well, mom and dad's going to do that for us. I mean, they just don't. They don't participate.
Yes. So hopefully we can inspire everybody to go vote that's legally of age.
And I want them to go vote so long as they vote right.
That's true. Yeah, that's why I tell people, go get informed about candidates before you punch the ticket. Because if not, then it's not a wise vote.
Yeah, I want them to vote and to study the issues and to vote for what's best for the country.
Absolutely, yeah. Study the policy, or even go meet the candidates themselves. There's a lot of election events going on actually right now where candidates are hosting meet and greets. It's so easy to go meet these people running for office.
And remember this, Jimmy, local politics, all politics is local. But local politics and local officials are going to affect you more in your day-to-day life than who the President of the United States is. You say, well, how could that be? Well, did you know that the city of Houston raised your water bill over the next 5 years about 40%? Did you know that? Did you know that I voted against it? Did you know that? Did you know that there's all these things that are going on in city government that affect you every day? Do you know that if you have a piece of property in a 100-year floodplain, that you can't build on it? You can't unless you build 2 feet above the 500-year floodplain. You're going to have to put a beach house in the neighborhood. A lot of people don't realize the power of local government and local government officials and local judges. Judges will have more effect on your lives every day than the congressman will, because they're the ones that rule on your civil suits, on your criminal cases, and on your family matters and your divorces and your wills. So you need to know who these people are and vote for good people that have good values.
Yes. Yeah, every election's important. Yeah, local up to federal. And a lot of people just pay attention to the presidential or big senatorial or congressional. But yeah, those local ones will affect your daily life, Michael, as you were saying. Yeah.
And think about this, school taxes, the school board, and the school taxes. Jimmy, you and I, owning a home or a business, we pay more school taxes than we do city and county taxes combined. And yet the turnout on school board elections is so low.
It's abysmal.
And what concerns me is all this money that I have paid in and you have paid in to the school system in our taxes, and we're not educating our children. Our schools are falling way short of other countries and even other states. We have got to do better in educating our children. And that should be a real priority, and yet people don't go to the polls and vote.
Right. So my next question, Michael, is why did you initially run for office? I feel like maybe I can answer half it for you. Was it because you wanted to make a difference? I think I got that right.
Well, Jimmy, back in 2008, my brothers and I started a campaign to get rid of the red light cameras that were being installed by at that time Mayor Bill White's administration, and they put up over 100 cameras. And I knew that the cameras were giving people tickets that weren't driving the car, and so if you loaned your car to somebody and they drove it and they ran through one of those camera lights and got a ticket, you had to pay it, and you weren't even driving your car. So I've always felt like that was an injustice. So we started collecting petitions. Before we did that, I went to Milam and Elgin downtown to downtown Houston on a Sunday morning at 7 o'clock where there was no traffic, and I announced and called a press conference that I was going to run the light at Milam and Elgin, and I was going to take it to court and contest the constitutionality of these cameras because they were writing the ticket to the person that actually didn't own the vehicle. So I went downtown, and an officer came up to me, and he wanted my driver's license. He said, "Are you going to run the light?" And his name was John Nichols, and I knew him well. And I said, "Yes, sir." He said, "Well, when you do, pull over after you do that. We're going to block the intersection for you. Cameras have been turned off knowing you're going to do this, and you won't be able to get a ticket. Are you still going to do it?" I said, "Yes, sir," because I said I was. So I ran through that light, and then he wrote me a regular ticket. And when the camera crew ran up to me and the Chronicle ran this story in the news media, on the front page of the Houston Chronicle, you can see where I'm at getting a ticket. And he says, well, what do you think about this, Mr. Kubosh? You've now got a ticket. And I said, well, we need more police officers stopping people who are violating the law than we do those cameras. And that's what they ran. And, you know, I wound up on Fox News, and people started telling me that, you know, I need to run for mayor, and I need to do this and that. And I listened, but a couple of years passed, and we collected enough petitions to get it on the ballot and to get the people to vote the cameras out of Houston. That actually happened. And then my brother Randy, he was the plaintiff in the lawsuit, and he took it all the way to the United States Supreme Court and won. And that's why today on the city charter is a charter amendment that prohibits the use of photo enforcement in regulating traffic. You may not know that, but it's there. And it's because my brother Randy took that issue all the way to the United States Supreme Court and won. Now, once I realized that I had such high name ID, everywhere I went, people knew who I was, whether or not they were for or against the cameras. So what I did was I decided in 2013 I'd run for city council. They wanted me to run for mayor. I said, no, I'm going to run for council, and I won. And then and so that's how I've been in office now for 8 years.
Okay. Well, thanks for taking that initiative. It's not like anybody paid you to do that, but you still did it.
I did it, yeah, and I appreciate my brothers helping me.
Oh, shout out to Randy Kubosh as well. Randy's actually here with us in the studio, and he's running for Harris County judge.
Yes.
But we just wanted to give you a shout out. Thanks for coming by.
We appreciate him. Yes, we do.
Yes, but yeah, that's like I said, I support law enforcement 100%,
Oh,
200%.
me too. Yeah.
But there's a certain amount of oversight where I feel like it's a bit excessive.
Jimmy, what they were doing, it wasn't about the cameras have never been about safety. In fact, they increased accidents. The Chronicles did a story after the cameras were removed and said that 6 months after the cameras were removed, they did a study and said that the accidents at those intersections where there were cameras were down 30% as a result of removing the cameras. Why? Because when people see the camera, they would hit their brakes and people would have rear-end collisions. It wasn't ever about safety. It was about money. It was about bringing in the money for the red light camera company, Jimmy, and bringing in the money for the city. The city said they were going to benefit from it, but I don't think they ever did.
Okay, Mike, let's go ahead and go into let's talk about some other initiatives that you've been a part of, as well as some other of your top priorities as an elected official for the city of Houston. Can you tell me a bit about the Feeding the Homeless initiative that you took, as well as the abandoned vehicles that were in the bayou in the city?
Well, I was in Chicago, driving from Chicago to South Bend, Illinois, and I don't know why, but I looked over and I saw people pulling something out of like a ditch or something, and it dawned on me that I remember hearing about the fact that we had cars abandoned in our bayou system in Houston. So when I called my staff and I said, would y'all look this up? And they did. And they said, well, Texas EquiSearch had found 125 cars in two of our bayous, Sims and Greens Bayou. Brays Bayou and Sims Bayou.
Is that downtown?
Yeah,
Okay.
From downtown. And these cars, they had Tim Miller with Texas EquiSearch was looking for a lost woman who had Alzheimer's, and they felt like she had driven off perhaps into one of the bayou systems. So they started, had a sonar, and they went through the bayou system, and he was shocked when he realized how many cars were in the bayou system. This is a place where criminals would dump cars. People would want to get rid of somebody or get rid of the car for insurance purposes or for whatever other purposes. They would just dump it in the bayou. And so we would never get them out. Now, I learned later that the chief of police knew that they had been there, and we had never done anything about it. So I was infuriated by it. And I brought it to the public's attention, got on the news, got on the radio. I talked about it all the time at council. Finally, I got the city and the county together because the city owns the land, but it's the county that owns the water. And for us to pull them out of the water, we had to be on the water, which was the counties. The flood control that. So we started pulling cars out, and we got about 80 of them out. The first one we pulled out, there was a skeletal remains of a gentleman by the name of Johnny Flanagan. And Johnny Flanagan, he was in that vehicle as a skeletal remains, and also his two dogs that were in a cages. He had been shot in the head, and so we knew then that we had a problem. And we found some other remains, but by and large, there's still 40 cars or 45 cars still in the bayou. We got 80 out, and then we had all this other hurricanes and stuff. But it appears, Jimmy, that the water flow is not great enough to move the car along. It's pretty much right where it was. We went back and re-sonared it, and we saw them. We know that Constable Rosen in Precinct 1 bought a device, one of these sonars where his own department can sonar those bayous to look for those vehicles.
Yeah, that'll surely help the city be cleaner if we can keep working on that.
And we can keep crime down because, we send a strong message to the criminals. You can't be dumping your cars in our bayous with people in the cars and not expect us to find out.
Right, absolutely. Yeah, it sounds like something you see in a movie. It's crazy, and that's actually happening in our city.
Yeah,
I can't believe that.
Yeah, in fact, there's going to be a show come out about it. A&E called me, and they're going to be meeting with Tim Miller with Texas EquiSearch and myself, and they're going to do a show on this. I don't know when it's going to run, but the show hasn't been shot yet. They're in the process. So once that's done, we'll let you know.
Awesome. So you're going to be a TV star now. Does that mean I need to get his autograph now?
You need to get it right now, Jimmy. But that's what really got me early on interested in running for office. I'd have never dreamed I would have enjoyed it this much. I don't know if you can tell how happy I am, but I enjoy serving the people because I love people. It's not anything I have to work at. It's just natural.
Well, I'm glad. Yeah, I can tell the passion. I feel it when you send your message across, and it's a beautiful thing for me to see. Also, you had an initiative where feeding the homeless was where people could do that without getting in trouble with the law. Is that correct?
We're a nation based on Judeo-Christian ethics. Whether or not you're Hindu, Muslim, Christian, Jew, it doesn't really matter. People want to help people that that are hungry and want food.
Right.
And how can we ask God bless Houston when we pass a law that criminalizes the giving of food to the needy and the poor, not just the homeless? They were wanting to institute a ordinance that would cause churches to have their kitchens pass inspections and all these kind of things, and it was just wrong. And so we got the churches removed from that ordinance, but they still eventually passed that ordinance, and it was wrong. And nobody's ever been ticketed that I know of since this ordinance passed in 2012, 2013. And nobody's ever been ticketed, but it's wrong to even have the threat of a violation, because a lot of people are afraid to give food. You have a party. I mean, like we have family parties. I got a big family, as I told you earlier. We have leftover food. We want to take it and while it's still warm and give it to somebody that needs it. And if you do to more than 5 people at one time, it's criminal. And yet we want God to bless our city. Jesus would be in trouble because he fed 5,000.
Yeah, from just being a reasonable human being, that it doesn't make any sense for there to be any kind of law against doing some sort of thing.
And Jimmy, they justify it by saying, well, we got to have it cleaned up. Well, look, we have, and they're on somebody else's property. Well, we have trespassing laws, we have littering laws. That's all a bunch of nonsense. They did it to scare away certain groups who were regularly feeding the hungry in different parts of town.
Right, because those people may be on the verge of starvation at any moment. And if you go and give them a meal, it could possibly save their life.
And there's a lot of satisfaction in feeding people. And I've met a lot of the people that are doing it, and there's a joy in giving somebody something to eat.
I agree. I've done it myself as well. And it's a feeling that's you have to do it to understand it.
Yeah,
You know what I mean, Michael?
I think you're exactly right.
Yeah. I volunteered at the homeless shelter as well, and
So,
that's
so
the same
you have
concept.
you have to do it to understand that feeling.
Yes,
that you get.
I can't explain it in words, but it's a good feeling, and
It is.
certainly humbling,
Yes.
to say the least,
And it makes you feel thankful
for everything we have.
for all you have. Yes.
Absolutely. All right, Michael, let's go to some of the policy priorities that some of the ones that I checked out, which I actually am a big fan of as well. We'll just focus on a few. I did write down quite a bit. I feel like one that is really big right now is government transparency. I know we talked about it a little bit earlier, but if you could just kind of give a bigger description of that in terms of your interpretation of how the government should do that.
Well, I believe that when you ask for records from the government, it's called an open records request. And there's always a certain amount of cost for the paper and the printing of the documents to give it to you. But the first thing they do, Jimmy, when you ask for something like this, is they send it to the Attorney General and they want to of Texas, and they want to contest whether or not you have a right to get it. And I'm sorry, but that's wrong. I'm a sitting city council member. I have been elected by the people of this city, and sometimes when I ask for documents that I want to get, I am told, well, we have to send a request to the Attorney General to see if we can give them to you. What? I mean, this is insane.
Doesn't make sense, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I go berserk,
Right.
because, and if I, as your elected official, can't
Can't get
the
it.
documents, how hard is it going to be for you to get the documents? Virtually impossible. There's an old saying, Jimmy, in law, that justice delayed is justice denied. All they've got to do is just keep putting you off long enough, run out the clock, and it doesn't matter. That's what they do.
Yeah, it shouldn't be like that.
And that's why I would pray that whoever our next mayor is, whoever it might be, that they will be willing to, if people want the documents, just give it to them, pay the cost of printing it up, black out anything that needs to be blacked out, like a person's social security number or whatever has to be blacked out, and give it to them. Why make it so hard? Why make this so difficult? They make everything difficult. Government just makes it hard. And then you want to know why people don't want to vote, why people don't want to get involved in government, because they bumped up against all these bureaucratic things. Look, there's only three branches of government that we're taught in school. That's the legislative, the judicial, and the executive. There's two other branches. The bureaucrats, you got
true.
me now. The bureaucratic branch, and that's the one that got Trump in trouble, the bureaucrats, and then the special interest groups. So there's actually 5 levels of government. And let me tell you, I deal more in conflict with bureaucrats and special interest groups than I do anybody else. And I think that the mayor of the city of Houston should be willing and have an open door policy. You want the documents, by gosh, you pay for them, the printing of them, and you can have them.
Things would be a lot better if there was that kind of transparency. So hopefully we'll be there
What
one
are you
day.
hiding?
Right. Hopefully we'll be there one day. We don't have that now, but that's why a lot of people
Well,
are apathetic and
Jimmy,
distrusting of the government.
Well, listen, when all this came down on this government official here recently, and the FBI and the U.S. attorney had cut a deal with her to give her 5 years in the penitentiary, and that's day for day, by the way, and a $250,000 fine. When they did that, and they said there were 17 other officials that are going to be revealed, when I saw that, I slept well that night, because I have never been enriched by serving in government, and it made me feel good to know that I'm not on that list. I don't know who's on that list, but I guarantee you they ought to be worried about it today.
Right. Since we're talking about everything we're talking about, we're being very vocal and direct about it, which I like that as well. Can you explain to me the situation of political correctness right now in American society and the world? Because it feels like a lot of times out there, I'm walking on eggshells too, because you have to be so careful with what you're saying But Michael, I like what you're preaching today because you're being so direct and honest about it. It's
Well-
coming from your gut.
Well, political correctness. It's like, I have 3 staff members that are, and 2 of them are African American. But I asked them. I said, look, let's be real honest. What do I call you? How do you want me to refer to you?
Right. Black or African American.
And they said, well, just call us by our names.
Or that. I didn't see that one coming, but that makes sense.
So there you go. So I'm going to call Jimmy Kim by his name.
Yeah, imagine
Jimmy
that,
Kim.
right?
I mean, I think that all these labels and things, but I understand, just like I told you earlier, that the largest voting bloc in the city of Houston was black females over the age of 65. I mean, I'm over 65. And people say, well, you're white. Yeah, I'm white.
You don't look like you're over 65,
well,
Michael.
I'm actually not white. I'm flesh toned. But I don't know what color I am. But anyhow, the truth of the matter is, all this political correctness can get us in trouble.
Right.
I called one of the council members the other day, a young lady, and she got real upset with me for calling her a young lady. Well, I'm twice her age. So
That's a compliment.
I thought that was a good thing, but she
Right.
took offense to it, made a big deal out of it.
That's bizarre.
Like it was derogatory. So I guess that wasn't politically correct. Right. And there's things about it's always it never ends.
Right.
It's like my brother had asked one of our attorneys that we had known. They had a baby. He said, well, what is it, a girl or a boy? They said, oh no, we're not going there. They'll get to decide for themselves. What? I mean, I don't understand. Somebody said started using terms during the hero ordinance. People would get so upset about terminology. Look, we just treat everybody fairly. Call them by their names. Let's try to, once some of these issues come up, it just becomes very caustic. They just can't seem to get it out of their craw. They want to make that the issue. Oh, you said this one time, or oh, you did that one time.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
And I just think we ought to be fair and nice. If you saw the people that I run around with from times that are my friends or friendly to me, I say my friends that are friendly, you'd say, Michael, you got a pretty motley group that are friends with you. I've just treated everybody fairly,
Right. And people like that.
Yeah, I think that's what we have to do. I don't care if they're Democrats, Republicans, if they're independents. I don't care. I just want to get the job done.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, they teach that to us in elementary school. We treat others the way we want to be treated. But some people lose sight of that, unfortunately.
And remember this, Jimmy, as an elected city official,
Yes.
I run on a nonpartisan ballot.
Yes.
It
So neither Democrat or Republican.
It doesn't say Democrat or Republican. It's just nonpartisan. And I like that. Because that way I can walk right into a meeting and I can cut past all that other.
Absolutely.
Because as soon as they start tagging me as a Democrat or a Republican, barriers and walls come up. And they automatically begin to assume things that are maybe not in truth.
Yes, I agree. Yeah, that's why even on my show, I try to keep that to a minimum where we mention political party affiliation, because at the end of the day, it's not the most important thing. It's what that individual stands for, and that's what we're focused on today. We've been talking about policy almost the whole show, and we do have to wrap up here in a little bit, Mike. But there are also 2 other policy highlights or policy agenda issues that we should discuss here. And one of your priorities is economic development and job creation for the whole city, right? Yeah, I like that too. Yeah,
I want to remind you of this, that because of this COVID virus, the city of Houston received $405 million as a grant up front that we don't have to pay back, and we used a lot of it for things that the government that we figured out. The mayor and the powers that be figured out how we could legally use the money to help the people in our community. Then the government passed this CARES dollars, 315 one year million and 305 million the next. So between all of this, the city of Houston from last year to 2021 and 22 will receive $1 billion, over $1 billion. And that money needs to go into helping the public and helping the people. We don't need to be the city with two different groups where those tall buildings downtown create a shadow for all the poverty on the east and west side. We need to. It's not just share the wealth. We need to be fair with the money that we get. I've been a one who's wanted to champion the fact that if we get money in and we're going to give it out, we need to give it out fairly. Right now, I don't think that we do that the way we should, and so consequently, we need transparency.
Yes.
That's why we need this checkbook that I talked about earlier. That's why we need the city controller to be in the city council meeting every week so we can dig into this stuff and make sure we're doing it right.
And then fiscal responsibility. That's pretty much what you're saying. So another thing I saw, Michael, is that you like to promote, one of your agenda items is entertainment, tourism, and arts in our city. I really like that when I saw it, because while your career is very important, the city has to be fun or nobody's going to want to come here. That's why when you told me about the rodeo being canceled, it is a bummer because people like to do that stuff. And it's a big part of our city.
Jimmy, I went to there's a national meeting every year in Orlando, Florida, and I got to meet the CEO of Disney, Walt Disney.
Wow.
And he spoke to us in a group, and he talked about things that should be done and to be able to accomplish more positive entertainment in different cities.
Absolutely.
One of the things that's blocking us from having another theme park like we did during Astroworld, the thing that's blocking it is the other cities, such as the ones over in San Antonio and in Dallas. They don't want us to have this theme park here. Why? Because our citizens go there.
That's why.
And they don't, people go there. They don't want to have one here. But we want to build one here. I talked to the mayor about it. There's a $5 million feasibility study that needs to be done. I've talked to the Greater Houston Partnership. They've tried it before, and they just say it just ain't going to fly. But all the pushback that we have received, and I don't know if you're old enough, Jimmy, to remember Astroworld or not.
Barely.
But when you go into Astroworld, back when it was new, you'd have college students putting on little shows, and this is all part of the arts.
Yes, absolutely.
They were singing, they were dancing. There was all kind of little entertainments in these little shows, and it was a wonderful time. I can still remember some of the songs and some of the things that happened. But what we have done is we in Houston have succumbed to Disney in Orlando or in Los Angeles, or the water parks in San Antonio, the Texas theme park there, the one up in Dallas, and we've let it go here. We really need a mayor who will focus on giving some incentives to these investors who will build a theme park in Houston. And yes, we have a lot of property still in Houston that it could easily be done, and we need to do it.
There's potential.
There's potential right here. And look at the base. Look how large we are. We have the largest medical complex in the world. We're the petrochemical giant of the world right here. We have NASA. We have a lot of pluses here that we could parlay, and we need to do that.
Absolutely. All right, Mike, as we wrap up this interview, tell me about, so what's in the future for Michael Kubosh? Because can you tell the audience you're being termed out this election season?
Yes, I have 2 more years.
2 more years, okay.
And I can't announce what I'm going to do until next December, so you're going to have me back.
Okay.
Because if I announce anything now, officially I would have to resign my current office.
Okay.
So that's the way the statute reads, and so I'll honor that. But I don't have any plans to go away. So that means I'm going to be doing something. And I want to do something to help this city. And I want transparency. I want some of the things that I talked to you about, the ability to get open records, the ability for the people to prosper, and to benefit from the money we get from the federal government.
Well, we'll be anticipating that news from you, Michael. You're going to keep everybody guessing, though. I like that. All right, and then to wrap up the show, Michael, I always do this: 3 tips to be successful as a politician, elected official.
Number one, you have to remember this: it's not how much you say, it's what you say that counts. Daddy also used to tell me he said, "Boy, it's not what you know, it's not even who you know, it's who knows you." So it's important to be known by the right people and to build relationship. Politics is all about relationship building. It's relationship. When I thought about a business, I talked to a person who was very wise about businesses, and he would say, "Oh, Mr. Kubosh, it's location, location, location." Well, in politics, it's who you know. It's positioning yourself and getting people to know you. You know, you got to have, who knows you? You got to get out there and show your face and get involved with people.
All right. Thank you for sharing that wisdom. Well, everybody listening to Radio The Bong certainly knows who you are now, Michael. All right. To the audience out there, thank you so much for tuning in to the Jimmy Kim Show today. Councilmember Michael Kubosh, thanks for coming to the station, and also his brother Randy Kubosh. Thank you all so much for coming by, and we will see you all next week. Have a great day. Bye.